humanist perspective presented by the New Orleans Secular Humanist Association, following our few principles of humanism.
We're committed to the use of science and reason for understanding the universe and for solving human problems. We're skeptical of untested claims of knowledge, but we're open to new ideas.
We are concerned with securing justice and fairness in society and in ending intolerance and discrimination. We are committed to the total separation of religion and government.
We affirm humanism as a realistic alternative to the theologies of despair and the ideologies of violence. We reject the concept of an afterlife and believe in living a full and rewarding life here and now.
We value and respect each individual's right to judge and lead their lives according to their own position, as long as it's respectful of other people living in a free society.
We hope you enjoy today's program and others in the weeks to follow. Hello, folks. I'm Harry Greenberger. I've been the host of this show for all these many years and appreciate your folks being here with us. My guest today is Marla Chirdon, who is the Director of Community Services at the New Orleans Council on Aging. Now, I always like to explain why the topic that I select, how it relates to being a secular humanist. And since we secular humanists recognize that the life we're living now is the only one we're going to have, and that we should live it to the fullest that we can, and without preventing other people from living similar happy lives. And I recognize that what constitutes a full and rewarding life changes from your youth. As you mature, different things become a part of that life, up into and including old age. And so we're going to talk today about how to live a good old age. I presume that's what we're going to talk about. Before we do that, Marla, tell us something about your background and how you became involved with the Council on Aging.
Yes, well, actually prior to this position, I was living in another parish in Louisiana, working in city government, actually, in economic and community development. And really, at a very grassroots level, was able to understand sort of the dynamics of how people and communities organize themselves, how they function, and how they're able to actually get done through the mechanisms of city government. It was through that position that I happened to meet, at the time, the local parish director of the Council on Aging, where I was working. She served on my board for the Main Street Redevelopment District. We became very good friends. And when this opportunity came up in New Orleans, she was a very strong recommendation for me. So it was through that friendship that I happened upon this opportunity here in New Orleans.
And you not only liked the opportunity, how did you feel about living in New Orleans?
I was elated to come back to New Orleans, certainly post-Katrina, and in light of all of the positive changes that I read about.
And how have you been with the council?
I've been with the council a little more than 2 years.
All right. Now, here's what I would like to talk about.
Yes.
And that is the mission statement of the New Orleans Council for Aging, which reads, "The New Orleans Council on Aging exists to protect the rights, promote the well-being, and enhance the self-esteem of New Orleans elderly by generating opportunities for self-reliance and independence." Now, that's a big project to undertake. But would you talk about each of these elements and tell us, protecting the rights and promoting well-being? Just pick it up wherever you would like to.
Sure. Well, let's start with rights. It is our belief, as well as the belief of the National Council on Aging, that older adults should age with dignity. That is, there's an inherent purpose and inherent wholeheartedness to individuals because they're a part of the human experience, but more so they age and or apt to become more vulnerable, that is either physiologically, psychologically, and physically, to be endowed with personal rights and constitutional rights. So let me explain. We all learned in 5th grade social studies that humans have the right to shelter, food, and clothing, right? Those are our most essential basic human needs. And it is because of that that we are able to sustain and thrive and be able to tap into our highest human potential. In this country, we also have a set of constitutional rights, which are always seemingly at the front of tenuous debate, because the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness are open to interpretation. They mean different things to different people. And, it is our built-in political process that would have a back and forth about what those topics mean in general.
Does the meaning, is it different for the elderly than it is for the rest of the population, or is this general rights we're talking about?
General rights. These would be considered general rights.
Well, originally, they were the writers of the Constitution were going to say life, liberty, and property, and they changed property to happiness. Happiness is a hard thing to define. How do you approach that for the elderly? What you know about happiness?
Happiness. I would think that one who could pursue happiness would be one unfettered by the constraints of poverty, the constraints of abuse or harm done, and one that could for themselves realize their own capabilities and be able to act to the fullest of their potential to take care of themselves and to engage with others, because I think social connection is the most primal and central reason for being. We exist to not only take care of ourselves, but to connect and find meaning through others, as well as our life experiences. So peer socialization would be ranked up there very high for me. I've seen senior centers and being able to engage with seniors where they're most happy when they're engaged with others.
When you mentioned one of the things that is the opposite of happiness being poverty, does the Council of Aging do anything about poverty for the elderly people?
We cannot address poverty head-on. It's just not inclusive of our mission per se, but we do a lot to mitigate the effects of poverty. So, quite specifically, we have a national caregiver program, which allows caregivers not only respite, but material aid to be able to take care of their loved ones, as well as grandchildren, their grandparents raising grandchildren with very little resources. So we get funding oftentimes to be able to assist them to make ends meet. We have our nutrition program, our very popular congregate meals and Meals on Wheels program, which ensures that they get a daily nutritionally balanced hot meal.
And but all elderly are not needy. How do you determine who gets those services?
Right. Well, there are certain criteria. Certainly, income would be one of the most important criteria. But also, we take into consideration family circumstances. Whether or not they have a steady income. Whether or not they are confronted with other challenges that prevent them from being able to access those basic services, such as a meal or caregiver service, or even social services. We've also seen higher incidences of elder abuse, often at the hands of relatives. That is, they're being financially exploited or they're being physically abused.
What can you do about that?
Well, we report that. We have a very strong relationship with, formerly it was VOA that ran the elder abuse programming, elder abuse prevention programming. That's now been assumed by the Department of Health and Hospitals Adult Protective Services.
Is that state or city or what?
That's state. That's
Okay.
now state. So we have been, we formulated a relationship, we formed a relationship with them, but we continue to work with them as these cases are reported to us.
Do you have many such cases of the elder abuse?
We have had more and more incidences of elder abuse in
And
the
are
last 2
they
years.
satisfactorily resolved?
We feel that they are. We feel that they are. And if we don't feel that they are, we go the extra length to ensure that they are resolved.
All right. Now, I think what you were talking about comes under part of your mission statement, which says promote the well-being. Now, we were talking about promoting the well-being, I guess, of the poor and the abused. What other promotion of well-being are you involved in?
Correct, right. Well, yeah, because aside from ensuring that elders are not in harm's way, the opposite end of that spectrum is to ensure that they are healthy and are able to live lives that are happy, healthy, to ensure longevity. And we'll get to the independence part in a bit as well. But recently, we were able to work with the LSU Department of Physical Therapy in collaboration with the Ashe Cultural Center to run a dance program at the Pontchartrain Park Community Center.
A what program?
Dance program called Move and Groove. And it was based on a pilot that had begun at the Central City Center many years ago. We adopted it, made some changes, tweaked it a bit, but it was serving as also an evidence-based model to be replicated at other centers in the event that it was highly successful and we felt that it could be employed elsewhere. So seniors engaged in about 6 weeks of dance instruction along with narrative, along with personal narrative and storytelling to be able to not only exercise and feel good about themselves, but as the highest form of personal expression.
Do the people who participate in that and maybe other activities, are they living at home, or are they in retirement homes, or where are these people residing?
A very good question. They're living in their own homes. They're able to live independently in their own homes. Some of them live alone, and some of them live with relatives, close relatives. But they're able to get to the centers daily. Pontchartrain Park does have occasional transportation that's provided, but many of them can drive themselves. So they're of the boomer generation. They're a little bit more active, but this was a way not only to boost their self-esteem, but to improve their overall health and mental state, right? Because it's also a mental health element to exercise and physical movement, and dance as an expression of art, as a highest expression and an art form in and of itself. They were very, very excited to be a part of that program, and it culminated in a final performance at the House of Blues.
Oh, really?
Yes.
How many people were participated in that performance?
I would say roughly 70.
Wow,
70
that's
seniors.
a big number.
Yes.
Now, do you have any relationship, or you do anything with the hospices?
We have a very informal, indirect relationship with hospices. We exist mainly in a referral capacity. If there are individuals who, by their physical condition, are deemed, ready for hospice, or if they are looking for hospice services, we do refer. We do refer to local agencies. We do have a relationship with other aging service providers, and that spans the for-profit as well as the nonprofit domains in this city. So we have a large Elder Action Coalition, which encompasses those in the nonprofit and profit sectors. And because of those relationships, we are able to refer individuals that need extra services or services that we can't provide.
You told me that that you're dealing primarily with people who still have their independence, living alone and can still are independent. What happens when these people then are no longer independent? What do you do? Just say, so long, you're not the kind of people we take care of, or what?
Well, we don't turn anyone away, and we would never, forcibly make someone utilize other services. What we do is make recommendations and work with our partner agencies to see if easy transitions or better transitions could be made for those individuals who are no longer in the capacity to take care of themselves adequately, or we're not in the position to do it either. So we handle that very delicately.
All right. Now, I'm going to bring up something with which you and I may not agree. And I'm seeing on your brochure it says the best age is the age you are. And there's a very old saying, come grow old with me, the best is yet to be. I don't accept that concept. I don't think being old and limited in some capacities is the best time to be. How do you support that?
I don't know if it can be supported. Actually, I also take issue with that motto. It was certainly not my making, and that was one that was inherited. However, while I do believe that there are, certainly challenges to growing older, I think the important thing is that we have a network, a support system, and a network of people who care about us, and attempt to make the life of an elder person as comfortable as possible. I think that responsibility is incumbent upon those who have relationship to the elder, because yes, there is a time when an older person may become so incapacitated and unhappy and unable to care for themselves that it's unbearable. But that is where the human factor comes into play. Our I feel incumbent responsibility to take care of those who are older because they're vulnerable. We wouldn't ask children who are feeble, who are handicapped, who are homeless to fend for themselves.
Yeah.
So I don't think that we should have the elders sitting at the curbside fending for themselves if they're not able to. It is our incumbent responsibility as human beings to do so.
Which is what you are, and while you're there, I'm going to mention something else that I support and your organization may not. I have for a long time been a supporter of the concept of death with dignity, which means when you have reached a point where life has no quality, that you should have the right to end it, which is permitted in, I think, 2 states in the entire country. Do you all have any kind of a position on philosophically on that subject?
I have a position philosophically. I wouldn't say that our organization has a philosophical position on that topic. But I'll say I believe that a person has the right to choose if they so think it is best for them.
And if they are still of a sound mind.
And if they are of the sound mind, absolutely. Sure.
Well,
that's
good.
An individual imperative.
I support organizations which favor that, but it is unlikely to get approval across the country as fast as smoking marijuana does. We've got still a little bit of time left, Marla, and I'd like I'm sure I haven't asked you all the right questions. Tell us more about the organization.
Yes, well, the New Orleans Council on Aging has been in operation for roughly 35 years, And we provide a coordinated and comprehensive assortment of social, recreational, nutritional, and caregiving services for the elders age 60 and above. We do have 2 programs that are volunteer-based programs for seniors age 55 and above as a part of the National Service Corps. That would be the Retired Service Volunteer Program and the Senior Companion Program. But all of the other programs are designed for those 60 and above. So we have a full plate. We have the Power to Care program, which provides utility assistance to those who are struggling to make payments with energy utility bills. There are qualifying criteria. We have our hugely in-demand and most popular nutrition program, which encompasses Meals on Wheels, so that homebound, disabled, elderly individuals can get a daily meal through our airtight delivery system.
Yes, well, you've mentioned a number of things that require a staff and funding. What sort of size staff do you have, and how are you funded?
Yes, I would say that we have a fairly large staff because we also operate as the Area Agency on Aging, otherwise known as a AAA, for 3 parishes. The AAA is sort of a governing and oversight body for the Councils on Aging. So they ensure that the area plan, which is produced every 4 years, which is an assessment of the needs of elders in our region, are met. And there are other sundry activities, but we're large. We have a staff of about 26.
Is this a paid staff, or do you have volunteers?
Paid staff. Staff.
Do you also have volunteers to do it?
We do have volunteers. We have a number of volunteers, primarily through our senior volunteer programs that I mentioned earlier, as well as interns. We do use college interns throughout the city. But we're a pretty large operation.
And how are you funded?
A very good question. We are funded by the state through federal funding, through the Governor's Office of Elderly Affairs. We also receive local city funding, civil affairs funding, and we have a relationship with a number of local foundations for our programs.
Have you been in the last couple of years of not such good economic times, have you been able to maintain your level of funding?
As of this year, as of this past year, 2013, we will not be able to maintain our level of funding due to a shift in the census figures. We lost population, therefore the federal...
You mean like Orleans Parish?
Orleans Parish, yes. So the federal funding formula that would allow allocation of funds for certain services have been reduced substantially, which means that we're looking at, unfortunately, salary reductions as well as layoffs. But we are looking to secure or resecure funding elsewhere and be a little bit more creative about getting our levels high.
Do you do any kind of event for individual giving? Many nonprofit organizations have maybe once a year a big event, and they have silent auctions and whatever. Do you do anything like that?
Yes. That was done. The last one, unfortunately, took place maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But we will be. We have started the planning and deliberation for an event in 2014 of that magnitude, something along the lines of a gala. And those have been very successful in the past. So, hopefully we'll not only generate more revenue, but also more interest in our organization and what we do. Well,
I understand the need for funding. Our little organization, the New Orleans Secular Humanist Association, we're conservative with our money, but we've never run out. We still manage to do those things that we think are important. And I'm glad that you have sufficient funding that you're continuing to do those things that are important. Well, we still have a few minutes, so why don't you let our audience know anything else about the council that might be of interest?
Yes, well, I would say that, we're all very passionate about serving the elderly. We find great value in not only attending to those needs that we discussed earlier, but also in the relationships we formed with the seniors. They're full of not only wisdom, but strength, right? There's stories of adversity and stories about the way that life was in the earlier part of this century, because many of them are, well into their 70s and 80s. There is value in connecting with senior citizens. As a matter of fact, we have tried to create more intergenerational exchange between younger people and older people.
I was going to ask you about the families of these people you're serving. I'm assuming they do have families at some level.
They do have families and quite a vested interest in the elders.
And do they sometimes accompany the people who participate in your events?
They oftentimes accompany the seniors who participate in our events, and we love having them. We love that it's a family affair. And they're very thrilled about the work that we do, as well as the younger grandchildren, even the grandchildren as young as 5 and 6 and 7, are able to derive pleasure and understanding about what it means to grow old. Even though elders aren't a monolith, I would not at all say that old people are in one box, right?
We don't all grow old gracefully.
We don't all grow old, not at all. So we try to differentiate when needed. But I would certainly say that seeing them beyond just bodies and their needs, and seeing them as people with inherent dignity and full of life and love has been quite a source of satisfaction for us at the Council on Aging.
Well, I want to thank you very much for being with us, Carla, and I know that our people watching this show are in great support of everything you're doing. And so I want to thank you folks for watching our program. We're always happy to attempt to have guests who have something of importance and of interest to tell you. And we certainly hope that you will be joining us frequently.